What up, family? Welcome to Swimming Through the Void. So, I've been in the process of shifting gears over here. Scorpio season has been Scorpio seasoning. I've really been getting back in touch with the root, the core, my spirit, right? And so I've been guided to start doing these readings that I've been wanting to do for the past year here, but have just been lifing, right? So I'm really excited. We are going to start off with one of the Upanishads. In ancient wisdom, texts called the Upanishads, illuminated sages share flashes of insight, the results of their investigation into consciousness itself. In extraordinary visions, they experienced directly a transcendent reality, which is the essence of self, of each created being. They teach that each of us, each self, is eternal, deathless, and one with the power that created the universe. So like I said, I'm really excited to get into this. We're going to be starting off with the Katha Upanishad here. Let's jump right into it. Hopefully the sound is right and everything. Just sort of jumping into the void with y'all. So let's get it. May the Lord of Love protect us. May the Lord of Love nourish us. May the Lord of Love strengthen us. May we realize the Lord of Love. May we live with love for all. May we live in peace with all. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Once long ago, Vajrasravasa gave away his possessions to gain religious merit. He had a son named Nachiketa who, though only a boy, was full of faith in the scriptures. Nachiketa thought when offerings were made, what merit can one attain by giving away cows that are too old to give milk? To help his father understand this, Nachiketa said, "To whom will you offer me?" He asked this again and again. "To death I give you," said his father in anger. The son thought, "I go, the first of many who will die, in the midst of many who are dying, on a mission to Yama, the king of death. See how it was with those who came before, how it will be with those who are living. Like corn, mortals ripen and fall. Like corn, they come up again." Nachiketa went into Yama's abode, but the king of death was not there. He waited 3 days. When Yama returned, he heard a voice say, "When a spiritual guest enters the house, like a bright flame, he must be received well, with water to wash his feet. Far from wise are those who are not hospitable to such a guest. They will lose all their hopes, the religious merit they have acquired, their sons, and their cattle." O spiritual guest, I grant you 3 boons to atone for 3 inhospitable nights you have spent in my abode. Ask for 3 boons, 1 for each night. O king of death, as the first of these boons, grant that my father's anger be appeased, so that he may recognize me when I return and receive me with love. Yama says, I grant that your father, the son of Udalaka and Aruna, will love you as in the past. When he sees you released from the jaws of death, he will sleep again with a mind at peace. There is no fear at all in heaven, for you are not there, neither old age nor death. Passing beyond hunger and thirst and pain, all rejoice in the kingdom of heaven. You know the fire sacrifice that leads to heaven, O king of death. I have full faith in you and ask for instruction. Let this be your second boon to me. Yama says, "Yes, I do know, Nachiketa, and shall teach you the fire sacrifice that leads to heaven and sustains the world. That knowledge concealed in the heart. Now listen." The narrator. Then the king of death taught Nachiketa how to perform the fire sacrifice, how to erect the altar for worshipping the fire from which the universe evolves. When the boy repeated his instruction, the dread king of death was well pleased and said, "Let me give you a special boon. This sacrifice shall be called by your name, Nachiketa. Accept from me this many-hued chain too. Those who have thrice performed the sacrifice realize their unity with the Father, Mother, and Teacher, and discharged the 3 duties of studying the scriptures, ritual worship, and giving alms to those in need, rise above birth and death. Knowing the god of fire, born of Brahman, they attain perfect peace. Those who carry out this triple duty, conscious of its full meaning, will shake off the dread noose of death and transcend sorrow to enjoy the world of heaven. Thus have I granted you the second boon, Nachiketa, the secret of the fire that leads to heaven. It will have your name. Ask now, Nachiketa, for the third boon." Nachiketa says, "When a person dies, there arises his doubt. He still exists, say some. He does not, say others. I want you to teach me the truth. This is my third boon." This doubt haunted even the gods of old, for the secret of death is hard to know. Nachiketa, ask for some other boon and release me from my promise. Nachiketa says, "This doubt haunted even the gods of old, for it is hard to know, O death, as you say. I can have no greater teacher than you, and there is no boon equal to this." Yama says, "Ask for sons and grandsons who will live 100 years. Ask for herds of cattle, elephants and horses, gold and vast land, and ask to live as long as you desire. Or, even if you can think of anything more desirable, ask for that, with wealth and long life as well. Nachiketa, be the ruler of a great kingdom, and I will give you the utmost capacity to enjoy the pleasures of life. Ask for beautiful women of loveliness rarely seen on earth, riding in chariots, skilled in music, to attend to you. But Nachiketa, don't ask me about the secret of death." Nachiketa says, "These pleasures last but until tomorrow, and they wear out the vital powers of life. How fleeting is all life on earth. Therefore, keep your horses and chariots, dancing and music for yourself. Never can mortals be made happy by wealth. How can we be desirous of wealth when we see your face? And no, we cannot live while you are here. This is the boon I choose and ask you for. Having approached an immortal like you, how can I, subject to old age and death, ever try to rejoice in a long life, for the sake of the senses' fleeting pleasures? Dispel this doubt of mine, O King of Death. Does a person live after death, or does he not? Nachiketa asks for no other boon than the secret of this great mystery." Yama says, "The joy of spirit ever abides, but not what seems pleasant to the senses. Both these, differing in their purpose, prompt us to action. All is well for those who choose the joy of the spirit, but they miss the goal of life who prefer the pleasant. Perennial joy or passing pleasure? This is the choice one is to make always. Those who are wise recognize this, but not the ignorant. The first welcome what leads to abiding joy. Though painful at the time, the latter run, goaded by their senses, after what seems immediate pleasure. Well, have you renounced these passing pleasures so dear to the senses, Nachiketa? and turned your back on the way of the world that makes mankind forget the goal of life? Far apart are wisdom and ignorance. The first leads one to self-realization. The second makes one more and more estranged from one's real self. I regard you, Nachiketa, as worthy of instruction, for passing pleasures tempt you not at all. Ignorant of their ignorance, yet wise in their own esteem, those deluded men, proud of their vain learning, go round and round like the blind led by the blind, far beyond their eyes, hypnotized by the world of sense, opens the way to immortality. I am my body. When my body dies, I die. Living in this superstition, they fall, life after life, under my sway. It is but a few who hear about the self, and fewer still who dedicate their lives to its realization. Wonderful is the one who speaks about the self. Rare are they who make it the supreme goal of their lives. Blessed are they who, through an illumined teacher, attain to self-realization. The truth of the self cannot come through one who has not realized that he is the self. The intellect cannot reveal the self beyond its duality of subject and object. Those who see themselves in all and all in them help others through spiritual osmosis to realize themselves. This awakening you have known comes not through logic and scholarship, but from close association with a realized teacher. Wise are you, Nachiketa, because you seek the self-eternal. May we have more seekers like you. Nachiketa says, I know that earthly treasures are transient, and never can I reach the eternal through them. Hence have I renounced all my desires for earthly treasures, to win the eternal through your instruction. Then Yama says, I spread before your eyes, Nachiketa, the fulfillment of all worldly desires, power to dominate the earth, delights, celestial gain through religious rites, miraculous powers beyond time and space. These, with will and wisdom, have you renounced. The wise, realizing through meditation the timeless self beyond all perception, hidden in the cave of the heart, leave pain and pleasure far behind. Those who know they are neither the body nor the mind, but the immemorial self, the divine principle of existence, find the source of all joy and live in joy abiding. I see the gates of joy are opening for you, Nachiketa. Teach me of that you see as beyond right and wrong, cause and effect, past and future, says Nachiketa. Then Yama says, I will give you the word, all the scriptures glorify, all spiritual disciplines express, to attain which aspirants leave a life of sense restraint and self-nodding. It is Om. This symbol of the Godhead is the highest. Realizing it, one finds complete fulfillment of all one's longings. It is the greatest support to all seekers. When Om reverberates unceasingly with the heart, that one is indeed blessed and deeply loved as one who is the Self. The all-knowing Self was never born, nor will it die. Beyond cause and effect, this Self is eternal and immutable. When the body dies, the Self does not die. If the slayer believes that he can kill, or the slain believes that he can be killed, neither knows the truth. The eternal Self slays not, nor is ever slain. Hidden in the heart of every creature exists the Self, subtler than the subtlest, greater than the greatest. They go beyond all sorrow who extinguish their self-will and behold the glory of the Self, through the grace of the Lord of love. Though one sits in meditation in a particular place, the Self within can exercise his influence far away. Though still he moves everything and everywhere. When the wise realize the Self, formless in the midst of forms, changeless in the midst of change, omnipresent and supreme, they go beyond sorrow. The self cannot be known through study of the scriptures, nor through the intellect, nor through hearing discourses about it. The self can be attained only by those whom the self chooses. Verily unto them does the self reveal himself. The self cannot be known by anyone who desires not from unrighteous ways, controls not the senses, stills not the mind, and practices not meditation. No one else can know the omnipresent self, whose glory sweeps away the rituals of the priest and the prowess of the warrior and puts itself to death. In the secret cave of the heart, two are seated by life's fountain. The separate ego drinks the sweet and bitter stuff, liking the sweet and disliking the bitter, while the supreme self drinks the sweet and bitter, neither liking nor disliking that. The ego gropes in darkness, while the self lives in light. So declare the illumined sages and the householders who worship the sacred fire in the name of the Lord. May we light the fire of Nachiketa that burns out the ego and enables us to pass from fearful fragmentation to fearfulness to fearless fullness in the changeless whole. Know the self as Lord of the chariot, the body as the chariot itself, the discriminating intellect as the charioteer, and the mind as reins. The senses say the wise are the horses. Selfish desires are the roads they travel. When the self is confused with the body, mind, and senses, they point out he seems to enjoy pleasure and suffer sorrow. When a person lacks discrimination and his mind is undisciplined, the senses run hither and thither like wild horses, but they obey the rein like trained horses when one has discrimination and has the mind one-pointed. Those who lack discrimination with little control over their thoughts and far from pure reach not the pure state of immortality, but wander from death to death. But those who have discrimination with a still mind and a pure heart reach journey's end, never again to fall into the jaws of death. With a discriminating intellect as charioteer and a trained mind as reins, they attain the supreme goal of life, to be united with the Lord of love. The senses derive from object of sense perception, sense objects from mind, mind from intellect, and intellect from ego, ego from undifferentiated consciousness, and consciousness from Brahman. Brahman is the first cause and last refuge. Brahman is the hidden self in everyone, does not shine forth. He is revealed only to those who keep their minds one-pointed on the Lord of love and thus develop a superconscious manner of knowing. Meditation enables them to go deeper and deeper into their consciousness from the world of worlds into the world of thoughts, then beyond thoughts to wisdom in the self. Get up, wake up, seek the guidance of an illumined teacher and realize the self. Sharp like a razor's edge, the sages say, is the path, difficult to traverse. The supreme self is beyond name and form, beyond the senses, inexhaustible, without beginning, without end, beyond time, space, and causality, eternal, immutable. Those who realize the self are forever free from the jaws of death. The wise one who gains experiential knowledge of this timeless tale of Nachiketa, narrated by death, attain the glory of living in spiritual awareness. Those who, full of devotion, recite this supreme mystery at a spiritual gathering are fit for eternal life. They are indeed fit for eternal life. The self-existent Lord pierces the senses to turn outward. Thus we look onto the world without and see not the self within us. A sage withdrew his senses from the world of change and, seeking immortality, looked within and behold the deathless self. The immature run after sense pleasures and fall into the widespread net of death. But the wise, knowing the self as deathless, seek not the changeless in the world of change, that through which one enjoys form, taste, smell, sound, touch, and sexual union is the self. Can there be anything not known to that one who is in all? no one, no all. That through which one enjoys the waking and sleeping states is the self. To know that as consciousness is to go beyond sorrow. Those who know the self as enjoyer of the honey from the flowers of its senses, ever present within, ruler of time, go beyond fear, for this self is supreme. The God of creation, Brahma, born of the Godhead through meditation before the waters of life were created, who stands in the heart of every creature, is the self indeed, for the self is supreme. The goddess of energy, Aditi, born of the Godhead through vitality, mother of all cosmic forces, who stands in the heart of every creature, is the self indeed, for this self is supreme. The god of fire, Agni, hidden between two fire sticks like a child well protected in the mother's womb, whom we adore every day in the depths of meditation, is the self indeed, for this self is supreme. That which is the source of the sun and every power in the cosmos, beyond which there is neither going nor coming, is the self indeed, for this self is supreme. What is here and also there, what is there and also here, who sees multiplicity but not the one indivisible self, must wander on and go from death to death. Only the one-pointed mind attains this state of unity. There is no one but the self, who sees multiplicity, but not the one indivisible self, must wander on and on from death to death. That thumb-sized being enshrined in the heart, ruler of time, past and future, to see whom is to go beyond all fear, is the self indeed, for this is the self supreme. That thumb-sized being, a flame without smoke, ruler of time, past and future, the same on this day as on tomorrow, is the self indeed, for this is the self supreme. As the rain on a mountain peak runs off the slopes on all sides, so those who see only the seeming multiplicity of life run after things on every side. As pure water poured into pure water becomes the very same, so does the self of the illumined man or woman, Nachiketa, verily become one with the Godhead. There is a city with 11 gates, of which the ruler is the unborn self, whose light forever shines. They go beyond sorrow who meditate on the self and are freed from the cycle of birth and death, for this self is supreme. The self is the sun shining in the sky, the wind blowing in space. He is the fire at the altar and in the home of the guest. He dwells in human beings, in gods, in truth, and in the vast firmament. He is the fish born in water, the plant growing on earth, the river flowing down from the mountain, for this self is supreme. The adorable one who is seated in the heart rules the breath of life. Unto him all the senses pay their homage. When the dweller in the body breaks out in freedom from the bonds of flesh, what remains? For this self is supreme. We live not by the breath that flows in and flows out, but by him who causes the breath to flow in and flow out. Now, O Nachiketa, I will tell you of this unseen, eternal Brahman, and what befalls the self after death. Of those unaware of the self, some are born as embodied creatures, while others remain in a lower stage of evolution, as determined by their own need for growth. That which is awake even in our sleep, giving form in dreams to the objects of sense craving, that indeed is pure light, Brahman, the immortal, who contains all the cosmos, and beyond whom none can go, for this self is supreme. As the same fire assumes different shapes when it consumes objects differing in shape, so does the one self take the shape of every creature in whom he is present. As the same air assumes different shapes when it enters objects differing in shape, so the one self takes shape of every creature in whom he is present. As the sun, who is the eye of the world, cannot be tainted by the defects in our eyes or by the objects it looks on, so is the one self dwelling in all cannot be tainted by the evils of the world, for this self transcends all. And I'm pretty sure this is going to cut off at 30, so if it does, forgive me. We're almost done here. Changeless amidst the things that pass away, pure consciousness in all who are conscious. The one answers the prayers of many. Eternal peace is theirs who see the self in their own hearts. To none else does it come. Nachiketa says, how can I know that blissful self supreme, inexpressible, realized by the wise? Is he the light, or does he reflect light? And Yama says, there shines not the sun, neither the moon, nor star, nor flash of lightning, nor fire lit on earth. The self is the light reflected by all. He shining, everything shines after him. The tree of eternity has its roots above and its branches on earth below. Its pure root is Brahman, the immortal, for whom all the worlds draw their life and whom none can transcend, for the self is supreme. The cosmos come forth from Brahman and moves in him. With his power it reverberates, like thunder crashing in the sky. Those who realize him pass beyond the sway of death. In fear of him, fire burns. In fear of him, the sun shines, the clouds rain, the winds blow. In fear of him, death stalks about to kill. If one fails to realize Brahman in this life before the physical sheath is shed, he must again put on a body in the world of embodied creatures. Brahman can be seen as in a mirror, in a pure heart, in the world of the ancestors, as in a dream, in the Guru Darva world as the reflections in trembling waters, and clear as light in the realm of Brahma. Knowing the senses to be separate from the self, and the sense experience to be fleeting, the wise grieve no more. Above the senses is the mind, above the mind is the intellect, above that is the ego, and above the ego is the unmanifested cause, and beyond is Brahman, omnipresent, attributeless. Realizing him, one is released from the cycle of birth and death. So, just something to meditate on. Maybe I'll break these Upanishads down in shorter, and that one is pretty long. So maybe I'll break them down into shorter pieces, and we'll do it like that from here on out. But I hope you guys enjoyed this reading, and yeah, I hope to see you guys on the next one. When all desires that surge in the heart are renounced, the mortal becomes immortal. When all the knots that strangle the heart are loosened, the mortal becomes immortal. This sums up the teaching of the scriptures. From the heart there radiate 101 vital tracts. One of them rises to the crown of the head. This way leads to immortality, the others to death. The Lord of love, not larger than the thumb, is ever enshrined in the hearts of all. Draw him clear out of the physical sheath as one draws the stalk from the munja grass. Know thyself to be pure and immortal. Know thyself to be pure and immortal. Nachiketa learned from the king of death the whole discipline of meditation, freeing himself from all separateness. He won immortality in Brahman. So blessed is everyone who knows the self. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.